in New Orleans last year. And last June has been about a year since we did that. And we had a lovely time there. But what happened was we missed our connecting flights in Dallas at the Dallas airport. I know that this is a usual thing that can happen in Dallas airport. And so we got to connect in a way that we wouldn't have in New Orleans. And I'm so grateful for that time. I love what Jackie is about and what she's doing and what she's going to share with all of you. I don't want to take up too much of your time with your bio because you can see it in Facebook under under her picture, but Jackie is doing good in the world. And I can't wait for you to meet her. Jackie, so glad you're here with us to start us off with the Rise Up.
Thank you. Nothing like being stranded at airport together, right?
No kidding, no kidding.
Wondering if we're ever going to get home, but we did.
We did eventually get home, but I'm telling you, we couldn't have been stranded with better. I couldn't have been stranded with a better person, Jackie.
I feel the same way. It was magical. It actually was. And you know what? I think having you with me, Leslie, just kept me from flipping out and worrying about all the possible scenarios. You were a very strong grounding energy for me, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
So,
And I'm really honored to be the first speaker today as well. Thank you.
I know it's, oh, I just got goosebumps. So it has been, I was so excited when you took this spot because I love, starting off the summit with a bang. And I'm telling you, we're starting off with a bang. So Jackie, you're going to talk to us about becoming a speaker from a survivor and how a voiceless child became a speaker champ. I know there's a story and I know I've heard it. And every time I hear it, it impacts me differently. Tell me a little bit about what led you to be so passionate in this area and passionate about the youth you serve.
Yeah, thank you. There's a little bit of a play on that speaker champ. A lot of people go, Shouldn't it be a speaking champ? Because I am a speaking champion. But no, actually, I'm a speaker champ because I champion the voices of kids to speak. And therefore, there is a purposeful way to say that. And I do that because, as Leslie alluded to, I did not have a happy childhood. Imagine being awakened in the night, abused by an older brother, and then being told, don't tell anyone. And I was obedient. If nothing else, I didn't tell anyone. And I wasn't even sure that I had the words to be able to tell, to describe it. It started probably when I was as young as 8, but I remember it chronically affecting me all through my childhood years into my adolescent years. And that silencing really did keep me from being who I could have been at the time, and it changed who I was then. I was really a silly, kind of happy kid. Once in a while, that would ooze out of me when I was with friends at school and away from the home situation. But at home, I was not myself. I was not me. I was always in that protective survival mode. And it wasn't until I was an adult woman when my brother, this older brother who's 3 years older than me, he got married and he and his wife had a baby girl. I myself was married and I had 2 little kids. And I was faced with this decision of what do I do about this? Because I'm the only one who knows that my niece is in danger. And I had a lot to risk in breaking that silence because I didn't know if people would believe me, and what if they didn't and they try to take my kids? What if my husband saw me as the really ugly person I felt I was and didn't want to be married to me anymore? I would bring shame on my little family as well as my family of origin. And I thought about suicide for a little while because it seemed like the easiest thing to just crawl under a rock and not ever have to reveal this or worry about it. But what finally kept me from doing that is realizing that if I didn't break that silence and I went to my grave without anyone knowing that they needed to watch out for the safety of my niece and subsequently possibly for the safety of my own children, that I would be bad. I would be worse than my brother if I turned my back on those possibilities. So for the first time at about the age of 22, I raised my voice. I rised up and I said, I have a secret and you need to know. And it was the first time I realized that I actually had something powerful to say.
Oh, goosebumps with that, Jackie. Goosebumps. Goosebumps.
Thank you. Yeah. It was a challenging and difficult situation, so many emotions, and I know statistics tell me that the women in this room have experienced something very similar and
Right.
can totally relate.
Right. Right. And going from this child, frightened child, all of the things that you're impacted, how it impacts everything to 22, you said,
Mhm.
to say, no, enough is enough. What I
Yeah.
have to say matters. So I'm going to say it. And here you are today. Here you are today. And I'm so thankful for you, Jackie. I'm so thankful. Tell us a little bit about all of those things and how we can rise and raise our voices.
Mm. Well, thank you for that question. There were several other occasions beyond that point when I needed to rise up and use my voice again in powerful ways. In fact, when I began therapy, the first day with a second therapist, by the way, the first therapist didn't work with me, didn't work for me. But I started someone new. And the first question she asked me after I just spilled my guts about all this emotional trash that I had inside because of this childhood life of abuse, she asked me, "Can you forgive?" And my reaction was, "What? Are you serious?" I mean, I think I literally laughed in her face because it just seemed so ridiculously impossible that she was asking me to do something after I had just shared this raw emotion with her, and I metaphorically feel like she was asking me to pick up this giant garbage truck with my bare hands and just throw it across the road. I mean, that's literally how impossible her question felt to me. But then she said something very wise that I want you to really focus in on if you can. She said, if you're not working toward the possibility of forgiving, you won't fully heal. Well, so it still seemed impossible to me, but at least I didn't have to accomplish it. I just had to work toward it. And that gave me a little bit of an out. And I felt like, well, I could work toward it because I will go back and say too that all during my childhood, there was this little voice in my head. I don't know where it was coming from. Maybe it was my own little voice. But I remember this voice and this feeling that if I live through this, I'm going to be strong. If you live through this, Jackie, you're going to be strong. I didn't know what that meant. And now I'm being faced with this question of can I forgive? And being told that if I don't at least work toward that, complete healing wasn't going to be possible. It made me realize that's what being strong meant. Is that if I continued to work through this, I was going to be strong. And I wanted to be strong. I felt so weak. I felt so insignificant and so inadequate to really deal with life. And here I was now with two little kids, and this sent me into this emotional spiral, and I was not being a good mother because I was just not there emotionally for my kids that were 2 and a baby at the time. And so I wanted to be strong, and I started that journey of working through that. And it took me more than a decade. It took me more than a decade to get to a point where I had found who I was. I had started to discover my talents, my innate abilities, and began sharing a little bit about my story. That one day I was asked, "Have you been able to forgive yet?"
Mhm.
And in considering the emotions I felt when that question was asked me, I realized, yeah, I think I have. I don't have any anger. I don't have any animosity. I don't feel those raw emotions anymore. So, yeah, I think I have. And then I was asked to consider if I should tell my brother that.
Mhm.
Now, I had moved away, and so it required a plane ticket to fly back to where he was still living and where we had been raised. And, at that time, his life was really awful. He had destroyed the marriage. His wife had gotten custody of my niece, which was a good thing. He'd been in other couple relationships where he had a couple more children, but he wasn't being a good parent to them. He was in and out of jobs. He'd been in and out of jail for crimes similar to those perpetrated on me. And his life was not, he was not in a happy place. And when I flew home and I faced him after all those years for the very first time, and I used my voice, I rised up and I said, "I forgive you." Ooh, it was that healing. Just like my therapist had said, I realized I could now fully and completely let this go.
Ooh.
But not only that, it finally gave my brother permission to have a different life too. I didn't realize he was waiting for me. I didn't realize that at some point I had become the one having the power over this situation. And I wouldn't say I was an abuser, but in some ways I was using my power to keep him from being who he could be, just like he had once done to me. And so when I said those words to him, he broke down, he sobbed, and felt that he could now start to heal himself from all those years and have a different life. And so forgiveness is so powerful for both sides of it. And when I then started to share my story in speeches, based not necessarily on the abuse, but of course sharing a little bit of that story, but the theme was always forgiveness. It was
Mhm.
always love of self and that power of forgiveness. People really started to listen to me, and people really started to be inspired to change their own lives. And I have this mantra myself now that is every time I share my story, I heal a little more and I inspire other people to do the same.
Mm. That's beautiful. Every time I share my story, I heal a little more and I inspire others to
To
heal
do
as
the
well,
same. Do
to
the
do
same.
the same.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I mean, Jackie, just and we've had this discussion a few times, and every time I heal a little more too, as
Oh,
I hear the things that you've chosen to do to rise up and, inspires the rest of us to take some of those steps too. And I love that.
thank you. Thank you.
Mm, you're welcome. Ah, now.
Now, when I was given an opportunity to speak to kids,
Mhm.
which So much of my childhood was different. I felt so different from other kids that I didn't really have the best friend sort of relationships. And so I felt awkward around young people. And there was always this feeling that, you're going to be working with kids. And I did some things through church and other service. I did work with youth, served at girls' camp for a long time as a counselor and things like that, but never focused all my efforts solely on that until there came an opportunity when someone asked me. I was in this international speech contest and I was going places. I was doing a great job. I was rising up into the higher levels of competition, and I was going to the international competition. And I had been competing against 35,000 people, and I was now in the top 90. And I was going to Las Vegas. And I was sharing that story. And I think it was shocking people around me who knew me because they didn't really know that full story about me. I'd been a leader for years over them and helping them and supporting them in lots of different things, but no one really knew what my past was like. And so I was having people coming up to me all the time and just congratulating me and saying, I know what you've been through, and now I'm going to do something different about it. So I became this little local celebrity in my area as I was preparing for this international contest, and I was speaking at different places. And I was found out by a group of these homeschool parents, a co-op, who had all these youth, and they contacted me and said, "Hey, could you come teach public speaking to a group of our kids?" And I thought, well, I could do that. It's not really abuse centered, so that feels comfortable to me. I don't want anybody thinking I'm a counselor or a therapist about abuse, but I could help them with public speaking.
Mhm.
So for 9 weeks, I did this little course that I developed for these 9 middle school aged kids, and I could see the power in their faces so quickly. Their countenances changed. Their faces were beaming. They stood up straighter. They spoke out more boldly. And this was just after just a couple of weeks. And I started thinking, wow, this actually is pretty powerful. This maybe is what I'm supposed to be doing. It's not working with kids that have been abused, it's working with kids to help them overcome whatever trauma through their voice, which is exactly what I did. And so they asked me again, can you do another 9 weeks? And then there were a couple schools nearby, this community center where I was teaching. They said, can we send some kids to you after school? Can you do a couple of courses for them? And it just started to grow into something I didn't even expect and wasn't prepared to do. So I started giving these workshops everywhere. And I found myself eating 3 meals a day in my car because I was driving different places to give these workshops. And they were all filled with kids. And it was really exciting. And then in the summer of 2019, I found an actual location. It's a 100-year-old house that was zoned commercial that I could revamp into one big school room, classroom, if you will, with some other smaller classes. And I did that in the summer of 2019. And by that fall, we opened up the Speak Feed Lead public speaking studio for kids. And they were all coming to me now. I didn't have to drive everywhere to get to them. And we became a nonprofit about that same time too, because I realized I'm serving a lot of these kids whose families can afford these courses that I'm giving, but what about those who can't afford this? How can I reach them? And talking with public school systems, they said, well, if you're a nonprofit, then we'll consider having you come in and do some enrichment with us. So that's why I did it. I started a nonprofit for that reason, knowing that those are kids that are already involved in some organizations that are being supported for abusive situations, foster care, and that kind of thing. And it just seemed like the right fit. But then early 2020, we all went into hiding. And that meant
We
I
did.
couldn't be in person with my kids anymore. And so we pivoted everything to online. And gosh, the growth then. We spread all around the country, all around the world, and we can just continue to teach kids the power of their voice. We call it public speaking skills, but that's so diluted from what we really do. I mean, we're really it's suicide prevention. When you really boil it down, I feel strongly that none of the kids we've ever worked with, and there have been hundreds and hundreds of them, they will never take their lives because they know who they are and they know they have a message that's uniquely theirs that only they can give, and that they know now it can inspire other people. They can contribute something magical and powerful to the world. So I'm so happy to declare that hundreds of youth have been on stages that we've brokered for them, that we've created for them, that we've helped them prepare for. We've helped them to be eloquent when they speak. And Leslie, I am so grateful for you and the stages you have offered to my kids. I call them my kids. On your summits. This is the second year. We're going to have 2 girls tomorrow that are speaking, and I think we had 2 or 3 last year that spoke. And I honor you for doing that because you are making a huge difference for them.
Well, it is truly my pleasure to have your girls speak on my summit, your kids speak on my summit. And yes, we do have 2 of them speaking tomorrow. I will always make that available to you and your kids, because what you're doing is important. And I love the way you said this isn't just public speaking that I'm teaching. You are helping them to understand the importance of their voice,
Mhm.
the importance of the message that they have, that each of us have. And you're teaching them to have that at an age where we don't even often feel like we're even seen, never mind heard.
Mm.
And you're right. To put your kids in a place where they feel important, that what they have to say is important, helps them to develop through those tough years, high school and young adult. Well, everything can be so chaotic and they can still hold on to that. Their voice is important. What they have to say is important, and it isn't just in front of an audience.
Mhm.
It's with whomever they're with, that their voice should be heard and what they have to say should be heard. And that, my friend, is a gift that not all kids get. And so I thank you for giving them that gift and giving them a chance to raise their voice and to understand how important their voices are. So I'm truly honored that we will be having a couple of your speakers tomorrow, because I'm telling you, the last ones, we learned a lot from them, and we'll learn a lot tomorrow from them. They truly do have important things to say and to share, and we can always learn. Um, Oh, look at that. Hannah's got it up here.
Yes.
So Jackie talked about having a nonprofit. And so I did this the last summit, and I'm going to throw it out there again. This is the donation link. If you would like to donate and to Jackie's Speak Feed Lead project, then use that link, and anybody that donates, you'll get an email from me, and we'll set up a 20-minute free Akashic reading.
Ah,
Yeah,
wow.
absolutely. I truly believe in what Jackie's doing. And so I'm happy to put my time into it for you. If you want to give a donation to Jackie today, I get all the messages on who's donated, because that should be my link. And if I don't, Jackie will let me know anyways. And so please donate, because this is Jackie is doing really incredible things with the people that are going to be moving up, rising up, becoming our leaders, knowing that their voices are important. And I love that. Jackie, I interrupted you because I'm so excited about what you're doing. Is there, so please donate. And
Yeah.
I'm happy I'll send you a link to book an Akashic reading with me, just for giving that donation. But is there something else we have a couple of minutes. So something else that you'd like to leave us with?
Well, right now, we are about to expand our reach by thousands of kids. A group of my inspired coaches, speakers, medical professionals, there's 9 of us on a team. We're going to Tanzania, Africa next month, a little less than a month from now. And we're going to be working in the schools, 12 schools there, full of primary and secondary kids. And we're going to be teaching them the power of their voice. And we're going to be recording it and we're going to be putting it in a book. And they are going to be heard from all around the world. These kids are going to be heard. So right now, when you donate, you're also helping the Tanzania 2024 Health, Hope, and Higher Aspirations mission to get our team there and to bring supplies to the girls so that when they're menstruating, they don't have to miss school. They can go to school because of the supplies we're bringing to them. And because they stay in school, they can have a better life than what they normally do, getting married at age 12 or having to support their family um, in pretty ugly ways. But anyway, so when you donate now, it's going to help us get to Tanzania to serve, like I say, expanding our mission by thousands of children. And so it's a good cause, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate you, Leslie, so much.
I mean, when I think about just the way I grew up, and I by no means had a terrible childhood, but when I remember not feeling like my voice was that important and that maybe I should be quiet, and when I think of what may have happened in those years had I had somebody like you, Jackie, who encouraged me to raise my voice, what a difference that might have been, and what a difference that would have made to me. But what I love is that, you said it, that for a while there, I could only provide it to the people that could afford it. But having this
Mm,
has allowed you to give it to all of the kids that need it.
yes, absolutely. And I mean, there's so much more we can all do together. And it's not my mission to do this alone.
Mhm.
All of us who have a voice can give a voice to someone else. And so we as women and we as nurturers, it's our responsibility to nurture ourselves and then
Yeah,
to nurture others any way we can. And I'm just simply providing an opportunity for you to nurture in a way that perhaps you haven't nurtured before and with specific kids in mind. And so I thank you
I love
for the
that.
opportunity to talk about that.
I love that, Jackie. Now, I know you have a free gift for everybody here.
Yes.
Yes.
I think it is happily even after, I believe. I think that's
Yes,
what
it
it
is.
is.
Happily
All right.
even after. Yes.
So it is a guide to healing from childhood trauma. It goes into my story a little bit deeper and how I was able to walk through those steps to do it. And then it provides you a step process, if you will, about how you might heal from that trauma yourself and some things that maybe you haven't thought about that you could do to empower your own voice and your life of healing as well. So I hope you'll enjoy that.
Beautiful. Now, I want to make it clear that everybody's trauma is different. And
Hmm.
you may look at the things that you've gone through and say, well, that my trauma is not like that, or my stuff isn't like that. It can't possibly be trauma. Trauma is trauma is trauma. And most of us, if not all of us, have experienced it at one time or the other. And so Jackie's gift can help us to move from that place of trauma to healing. Thank you, Jackie, for that. Now, I know you have a VIP gift as well. And this is an exciting one.
Yeah, so I did a 6-week television pilot, if you will, 6 episodes, and I brought in communication experts that I interviewed, and they gave such fabulous advice, but from an FBI guy who learned how to read faces to someone who helps us to recognize the saboteurs that are natural to us, that we're born with, and help us to find the antidote to those saboteurs every day in personal life and business. So this is a really great gift. It's called Being Present with Your Stage Presence. Life is a stage. We're all actors. So how do we be more present while we're here? And that's what that is. It's a 6-week recorded course, free for the VIPs. And I want to say, Leslie, too, that trauma, Gabor Mate tells us trauma is not what actually happened to us.
Yes.
Trauma was not my abuse. That's not my trauma. The trauma is what I thought about myself because of what happened to me.
Beautifully said.
In that regard, we've all had trauma.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. So if you want to upgrade to VIP, it's $47 US, and the link is there. Jackie's gift is worth way more than that $47, and we've only been this is only our first speaker. So Jackie, I know we're running a little bit long here, but can you leave us with one last thing you'd like everybody just to hear before we go?
You can pick up that garbage truck that contains all the emotional garbage you've dealt with your whole life. You can pick that truck up and you can throw it across the road. Because when you work through the healing process, that truck becomes Hot Wheels size.
Beautiful.
You still have it, but it's small and you can do it. So
beautiful.
Break
I
your
love
silence.
that.
Break your silence.
Love it. Break the silence. Love it. Love it. Thank you, Jackie. It is always a pleasure to see you. And I am so thrilled that you were able to be part of this summit. And I can't wait to see your girls tomorrow speak. Our next speaker up is Lois, I believe. I know Hannah will have that up.
Yes, I am here.
Lois is next. So we're just going to take a 2-minute break. So if you need to just get up and stretch for a minute, Lois Hollis is next.